What addiction is seen as completely normal by society? Have fun watching and be sure to write in the comments what you think about these stories. Maybe you have encountered similar? Story 1: social media, aka being on your phone for 6+ hours a day. Endless stupid spending, aka shopping. Caffeine, the most successful drug currently. Alcohol. Don't even try helping these ones. And my most favorite? Porn. No one is perfect, and you can't expect everyone to be the same. Awareness is key to start taking small steps to improve yourself. Story 2: weed. I signed my 3-year-old up for soccer at the Y, and his first day was Saturday at 9 a.m. When we pulled up, there was roughly 200-ish people there. For some fucking reason, the whole area reeked of dope smoke. I have no issue with smoking it, I do from time to time myself. But at 9 a.m. at YMCA soccer fields where a bunch of little kids are playing soccer, it wasn't like there was just one person doing it either. We passed 2 separate groups standing around smoking blunts. Then we saw a parking spot but decided not to park in it because the people in a car next to it were passing a blunt to each other in the front seats. So we found another spot, and there were people in that car ripping a weed pen. Get a fucking grip, people. Needless to say, we ended up leaving and disenrolling our kid from that Y program and got him into another one. For reference, this happened in Stone Mountain, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. Story 3. You know, one thing that's totally chill with society is being hooked on tech and social media. Like in today's world, everyone's glued to their phones, laptops, and stuff, always scrolling through Insta, playing games, or just surfing the web. And like, it's cool in moderation. But if you're constantly glued to your screen, it can totally mess you up. Your productivity tanks, relationships get strained, and your mental health takes a hit. Even though it's got its downsides, society kinda acts like it's all good to always be plugged in. It's like everyone's encouraging you to stay connected 24/7. But that vibe makes it hard for peeps to realize when they've crossed the line and need to dial back on the tech. Story 4. Obviously, scrolling and phones in general are a crazy addiction, but the one I'm noticing more than anything is the super short form, constant drop-fed content like TikTok and YT shorts. I worked with 2 young girls aged 23 and 21 AM'd on their breaks. They would sit transfixed to their screens, nearly emotionless, just flicking from video to video. It's addictive. I found myself even on desktop YT, which I use a lot of, clicking on a shirt and then suddenly 20 minutes later, I'm watching a guy trim people's lawns for free or a woman make cakes shaped like cats and I have no idea why. Story 5: online gaming. The fact that many people play online games every single day and excuse their addiction when it gets in the way of other priorities is pretty insane. So many online video games nowadays require for players to be playing every day to avoid falling behind on battle passes, challenges, or rewards. If you don't agree that online video games are addictive and play online video games like COD every day, see how long you can go not playing. I used to get FOMO when new games would come out and I was too busy to play games with friends. I had a group of 3 friends who I would play with for 2+ hours every single day, sometimes 8+ hours on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We would buy new games every time they'd be released, and some we would only play one time before spending money on a new game days later. It's some crackhead behavior once you stop playing and look back. I realized how addicted we were when we started playing Modern Warfare 2, 2022 for hours, even though the same group of friends and I had already played the first iteration back in 2009. I didn't know I was addicted until I stopped playing for over a month. It's been almost a year since I played online games, and I feel great. Story 6: caffeine, sugar, social media, and low-level alcohol. It's so normal to need a coffee first thing in the morning or in the afternoon. You are offered a coffee after a meal in the restaurant. You could easily drink several cups a day and no one would care. Sugar the same, it's in everywhere. Social media, it's clear. Plus alcohol in the beginning. It's offered in restaurants, present basket, brought to invitations as a thank you, necessary for relaxing, having a good time, make the party great. Try to meet people and tell them you don't drink alcohol. Prepare for the discussion. Story 7: alcohol, caffeine, social media, technology in general. And amongst a large portion of the youth nowadays, because of social media plus the music they listen to, opiates unfortunately have become very normal to be addicted to. And the worst part is, the opiate epidemic has become a xylazine epidemic right in front of our eyes within the last few years, and a large portion of non-users have no idea what's happening to their kids, loved ones. Plain fentanyl has all but dried up, which sounds like it'd be amazing, but in reality only means there's now no help. Fentanyl, which is at least a real opioid, has been replaced with 10% random poisonous cuts, 1% fentanyl with 89% plus xylazine not for human consumption with its own set of dangerous will-kill-yo-ass withdrawals, meaning the damage is permanent. Meaning there's no help in rehab for it because Suboxone methadone don't work. Oh, and it causes disgusting wounds that cause limb amputation, found in 48 of 50 states already, all stemming from Kensington and Philly. If we all thought fentanyl was horrendous and taking out entire generations plural, this trank shit is making fentanyl look like child's play, and that's beyond insane to even be able to say and have it be the 100% truth. Story 8. Alcohol, especially online, and in romance books written in the modern day. For some reason, an alcoholic guy is romanticized, and it's disgusting, because they always miss out the aggression, unhealthiness, and damaging things that come along with alcoholics. It should not be normalized. It also damages and brings up unwanted memories for people who have experienced or used to be alcoholics, which I am not exactly one of. Story 9. Drinking. It's somehow considered perfectly fine to pound drinks for every social event also. It's also considered normal to drive while over the limit. It's ducking wild. Go into a club and count how many taxis or Ubers you see out front. It's really scary to think about. My wife and I used to get laughs when we said we were taking a taxi. Story 10. Drinking. It's somehow considered perfectly fine to pound drinks for every social event also. It's also considered normal to drive while over the limit. It's ducking wild. Go into a club and count how many taxis or Ubers you see out front. It's really scary to think about. My wife and I used to get laughs when we said we were taking a taxi. Story 11. Lately. Video gaming. I'm a big gamer, but it's not my life and self-identity, and the vagrancies of the art and medium of my toys and entertainment don't trigger victimization in me. Yes, you are right. That game company charges for things inappropriately. So don't engage with their products, and you won't be their victim. Can't stop yourself from engaging with every title because it's what you fill your life with? That's a problem with you. Story 12. A lot of people say caffeine, sugar, and social media. All of those are true, but they wouldn't exist on the same level if being a workaholic didn't exist. The real monster is being a workaholic. Most people are one and are forced to be one. Humans have never worked the amount we are today. It's why we have developed addiction to sugar, caffeine, and social media to the levels we have. It's the underlying cause. Addiction doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There is an underlying cause. It's the life-threatening root to most issues. It's bad for your body and leaves it exhausted. You turn to caffeine and sugar to give an artificial boost, or due to not having time to create real healthy meals. Social media ties in because we are social creatures by nature, yet working so much leaves us little time or energy to connect with others. So we try and seek it in any way we can, usually falling into the artificial social media camp. It doesn't fulfill you in the same way as true socialization, but it does fulfill your need of socialization more than just being alone does. People who work less tend to eat better, consume less caffeine, and have less addiction to social media. But social media also plays into lonely people in general, so that's not entirely at the fault of being a workaholic. I'm saying this because I know someone's going to bring that up as an argument. I'm agreeing, but social media wouldn't be an addiction to nearly every person on the planet currently without the workaholic factor. Story 13. Lots of stuff in the restaurant industry are considered normal, and it blows my mind. The grindset mindset where you have to pick up every shift you can and get as many hours as possible and always work and never stop and keep making money. The problem is that these people don't save, they just keep spending their money on stuff. It's unhealthy mentally and physically for multiple different reasons. The substance abuse, we're talking smoking, drugs, drinking, vaping, caffeine, whatever else you can think of. People having to go out back to constantly smoke cigs or use their pinch hitters or whatever else they have. The nicotine addiction is real, I get that. Weed is becoming an epidemic though. I'm not saying smoking a bit before work is bad, but when you work a 6-hour shift and have to go outside to re-up your high every 30 minds, you have a serious problem. People coming in drunk from their drinking binge the night before. Except it's the third day in a row they've done that. Hell, even just people coming in drunk because they think they're a high-functioning alcoholic and thinking it's cool. People coming in and bragging about how they got blackout drunk a few nights ago and can't even remember what happened. People high on whatever type of amphetamines you can think of. Part of this goes back to the grindset thing that you have to keep working and never stop. They keep themselves juiced up on whatever they can get to keep themselves distracted from how much they're having to work. Just to live. They don't stop long enough to realize that they could work slightly less and cut out their drug of choice and suddenly have more money. The people who come in drinking an energy drink or coffee only to have multiple backups to help them get through their 4-hour shift. Like, You aren't even here all day, you'll be fine. Even for the people who come in and work all day, drinking a whole six-pack of Monster in one day isn't healthy. Having to drink 10 cups of coffee a day isn't healthy. As somebody that used to drink that much coffee, I promise it's bad for you. I'm putting vaping as its own specific thing here since it doesn't apply to just restaurant life. Vaping is bad. It's better than smoking in the regards that at least it's technically cleaner than cigarettes, but it's worse in the regards that you can end up smoking so much more nicotine than you otherwise would have. You can smoke them basically anywhere, at any time, so you turn it into a habit. It's now a habit and you have to do it, or else you don't feel right. You get bored, you vape. Need something to do with your hands, you vape. Notice you have lips, you vape. Somebody got a new vape. You want to test it out to see how it tastes. It's a never-ending cycle. I walk into work. One person is there before me. I see 7 vapes just sitting around on various counters. We open at 11. Almost everybody is sucking on vapes and have multiple backups on them. I get it. I vaped at one point myself. But it's so ridiculous now. Story 14, plastics. People see them as benign, but they often contain additives like BPA or phthalates that are known carcinogens and endocrine disruptors. Studies show they're absorbed through the skin and GI tract. They are devastating to our natural habitat, both at point of production, petroleum extraction, and when discarded, pollution. Story 15. In many circles in America, being a pothead is seen as normal and even encouraged. It drives me crazy when folks say things like, "It's not a drug, it's a plant." Yeah, sure, Braxton. Your dab-dipped joint with shatter inside was a plant until it was distilled into this monstrosity that is so potent you can't operate a video game controller, let alone heavy machinery. Story 16, self-hatred. Too skinny, too fat, too short, too tall, dead-end job, workaholic, lives with their parents, too much debt, not a homeowner, doesn't go out enough, goes out too much, too picky, too indecisive, too much makeup, not enough makeup, too much hair, not enough muscles, too many muscles, too tan, too pale, boobs too big, boobs too small, dick too big, shoulders too broad, shoulders too narrow, posture too bad, walks like they're stuck up. The list goes on. Very, very few people don't worry about some aspect of themselves, and nobody can avoid self-criticism. If we could avoid there being so many things people are told are bad about them with half of them contradicting each other, then people could feel a lot better about themselves. Story 17, sugar. If you have ever switched to a low-carb diet, you learn that sugar is in virtually everything. Normal people are so used to it that they don't notice it. But once you start avoiding it in general, your taste gets significantly more sensitive, and you realize how unbelievably sweet most things are. Adding sugar to anything tends to make it tasty. And because of that, we eat a lot of crap that we normally wouldn't eat. But people think that if it tastes good, then it is good. Story 18. By the homeless in LA, everyone was smoking meth. But if I mentioned I injected it to them, I got dirty looks. Like y'all are smoking all day, and wasting like 80% of it through smoke when we're all broke, and our breath stinks. Yet when I'm getting the full 100% of the drug straight to the blood with only a few shots per day, and my teeth and breath are good, I'm the one judged, partly because smoking it is a social activity. Injecting it is quite isolating. I wish injecting was social too, in that society. Story 19, the book talk community on TikTok. Most of these goons have a straight-up addiction, or spice, as they call it, and encourage books that have straight-up essay and other horrible topics that are, very poorly, disguised as just hardcore stuff, or normal BDSM. I'm not in the BDSM community by any means, but I'm pretty sure they don't condone half the crap these spice romance novels contain. Story 20. Alcohol, even when not to extreme excess. Cigarettes, vaping, caffeine, Facebook, doom scrolling on TikTok, fast food, processed food and snacks, online shopping, sugar, irregular sleeping, pornography, video gaming, and about 1,000 other things I'm probably failing to mention. Story 21. Self-image. Caring way too much about what others think about you, and constantly trying to perfect yourself to be better. Most of the time, the better is materialist parts of yourself. This includes plastic surgery, 10-step skincare. No, you don't need all that. Put it down. Not wanting to age, dyeing your graying hair, even though there is nothing wrong with it. Buying expensive designer clothing like Gucci, etc. Story 22. There's a lot. The internet in general, too many kids lack social skills, and are completely self-centered tantrum-throwing brats because their parents were too busy to actually care for them growing up and gave them an iPad as a pacifier at age 2. Caffeine. This one isn't as bad as it has been, but there's still a bunch of people running around claiming they can't get through a day without coffee or an energy drink, and they don't understand if they just stopped using them for a while and got regular sleep, they'd be better. Alcohol, weed. I'm in a state that the devil's lettuce is still illegal in, but the amount of people that I see, especially on college campuses, just sitting on their porch with a bong is ridiculous. And we have this culture that promotes driving high as a fun experience, and drinking culture is less about having a good time with friends and more about how belligerent you can get as quickly as possible. And if you don't care to join in any of those activities, you are pushed away because you're a buzzkill. Those activities are highly illegal for a good reason. They're dangerous. I can't say that I haven't fallen victim to any of these addictions at one point in my life or another. Definitely not as deeply as most, but everything in moderation is okay. Going to the extreme with anything is never a good thing. Stay safe, stay in school. Don't do anything you wouldn't want your parents to see you do, and be merry. Story 23. Alcohol and caffeine. As a non-drinker, it's amazing how often people literally cannot go without alcohol being mentioned, used, considered, even provided, even in workplaces that you wouldn't expect. For example, schools. Every office party, office drinks after work, every office social, every office to woo new customers, etc. Every Christmas, as gifts, etc. I've had to explain to employers before now that the reason I'm being antisocial and refusing their offers of gifts is because they're all alcohol-based. They started providing chocolates, but only after many years of pointing it out. The reason I don't come to the Christmas party is because I refuse to be the only sober person dealing with drunkards, violence, vomiting, organizing them getting home when they're incapacitated, even hospitalizations through overdrinking in previous workplaces. And because it's the Christmas party, nothing comes of it. Where any other such event happening would be an incredibly serious HR event. I've been people threaten their boss with violence, and it blows over because it was the office due. I won't deal with your hangovers. I ain't cleaning up after you. I don't consider illness after drinking to be a valid reason to not be at work the next day, or to mope around like some dying person with a terminal headache all day when you're supposed to be working either. Go home and take it out of your illness holiday. It's entirely self-inflicted, and I'm not interested. And you'd be amazed how much it's mentioned when planning events, even for clients. Everything revolves around alcohol. I wouldn't mind, but I'm not even teetotal because of religious reasons or personal addiction, or because I disagree with the concept. I just don't like the taste of it, and I don't want to be lumbered with your alcohol problems, even if they're everyday style problems and not a full-blown addiction. Instead, I always get together with other like-minded people, because there are always some, and we arrange our own socials without it, or with very minimal alcohol, and we have a great time and nobody has to worry about how they're getting home or who's throwing up in the bathroom. Caffeine doesn't have anywhere near the same impact, but it's a major addiction. I was consuming so much of it, I'm now effectively immune to it. I could drink 10 black coffees and then just fall off to sleep. It really has such little effect. I've rendered it useless, so it's almost like going through addiction and out the other side, where it has literally no attraction or effect on me. I don't even get caffeine withdrawal headaches anymore, as I proved to several people who said I couldn't go without for a given amount of time. But I know people who can't survive without tanking themselves up each morning, where they're incredibly unpleasant if they haven't had their coffee and so on. I had to deal with an employee who was calling in sick constantly because they couldn't sleep and with severe anxiety, and they were rolling in late with cans of Monster Energy attached to their face first thing in the morning until they left at the end of the day. The reason you can't sleep? Maybe that's because you drink more caffeine than anyone I know, and your body is singularly unable to cope with it. Take alcohol, especially, and caffeine away, and the world would be a better place. And if you can't have fun, or can't wake up without them, you have a problem. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it, be sure to write comments and share your stories.